Right, madam, can we start again or just
No,
bypass
it's okay. You
for the
can
introduction?
continue.
All
Yeah,
right.
continue.
So now we will go to interactor one, which is introduction. Speaker by Mr. Fahmi. So don't waste our time for this. So now we go to Mr. Fahmi.
Alright, so Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I'm going to explain about the introduction for our research. Alright, next slide. So the background of study. So the first one is the what is steering wheel. So steering wheel is one of the major system in a car. Without steering wheels, a car cannot be controlled. Specifically speaking, a car can only move forward and backward without any assist of a steering wheel. Starting of the invention of steering wheel is without power steering, which is a super hard to turn when it is not moving. Example is on Perdua Kancil. However, when the car is moving, it will be much easier to control it. But without a power steering, the steering will not get back to its original position, which is the straight position. For example, whenever we make a turn or car make a turn, like a hard turn, the steering wheel stay in that direction, which is the cornering direction. But with an assist of power steering, the steering wheel will turn back to its original. Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I continue. So with assist of power steering, the steering wheel will turn back to its original position, which is the straight position by itself. That is with the help of the hydraulic in the steering wheel system. So in our research, we are comparing between the gas and some other material in our steering system. So the material is, for the first one is the compressed liquid, the second one is the synthetic fluid, and the third one is compressed gas. So for the compressed gas, we have three type of compressed gas, which is the first one is liquefied gas, non-liquefied gases, and the dissolved gases. Okay, next. So this is a problem statement that we have. So the first one is for the compressed liquid, which is it have a high pressure. So high pressure inside the cylinder can turn damaged cylinder into uncontrolled rocket and can cause a severe injury. The next one is about the synthetic fluid. It will, sorry. So in a long-term condition, the synthetic fluid will eventually leak and some of it may rust. So the second one is in some condition, the synthetic become like somewhat foam condition and it will make the steering wheel jam. And for synthetic fluid, the compress is a bit slow compared to gas. So it will affect the response when turning the steering wheel. Right, next. So this is the last for me, which is the significance of study. So doing research regarding the topic, comparing the hydraulic and gas in the steering wheel system, there is some boundaries and or parameter that make gas steering system not fully functioning. First of all, gas will get hot and some cases there will be condensation. Other than that, due to its light and small particle, it is quite hard to contain in a moving parts. Moreover, its container need to be made of a high quality of steel to contain it. So it may be a bit costly. So that is all for me. So I will pass to the next presenter, which is Azizy. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Nur Azizy binti Syukur and I will explain about literature review, which is chapter 2. Next slide. Okay, so we have identified 3 materials for steering wheel, which is the first one is material A, dissolved gas, which is dissolved, and then material B, synthetic liquid, and then material C, liquid, regular liquid. And actually, all these three has its own specialties and effectiveness. Okay, so for better explanation about all these materials, which is the first one is gas. Which is dissolved gas. It is light, compactable, and require less space. And is a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen, and it is in low temperature fluidity. The third one is thermal and oxidative stability, hydrolytic stability or water tolerance, and cleanliness and filterability. The third one is material C, which is liquid, the regular liquid. It is actually from the synthetic liquid, but the synthetic liquid is actually the enhancement of material C. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about power steering fluid. Steering wheel has been explained by Mr. Fahmi earlier, so I will touch a little bit about power steering fluid. So what is power steering fluid? Power steering fluid is actually a kind of hydraulic fluid transferring power in modern vehicles with power steering. And most of earlier car invention, they do not have power steering, and because of that, drivers face a little bit difficulties when turning the vehicles, as Mr. Fahmi has mentioned earlier. And with that difficulties, drivers will have to put more effort and require more force to turn the steering and finally turn the wheel. And as the technology evolves within time, cars experts began to enhance some type of fluid in liquid form to ease this matter, which they had found the material C, the regular liquid. And then for further research, for car experts has done further research, then they have found the synthetic liquid. So, which they found out that the material C is added with a few components, which is carbon monoxide and hydrogen. And also, for the earlier development, the material C, they named the liquid as ATF, which stands for automatic transmission fluid. And most cars during late 90s has begun to use this ATF, which is the regular liquid, first as an alternative to power the steering wheel. So that's all from me. Next, I will pass to Nurul Fatihah Ashikin for better explanation about which materials need to be chosen for the power steering wheel.
Okay, thank you, Nur Azizi. Okay, the next part is chapter 3, which is methodology. Methodology is a part where the need of conducting a method to achieve the objective and solve the problems. So here we want to investigate the relationship between the different kind of materials and force applied in the steering system. Okay, in this chapter, there will be several points included, which are method, material, procedure, and conclusion. We will also test the materials depending on the load, whether the load is maximum, medium, or minimum. The load is attached near the tire in ensuring the turning point of the tire and the steering. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the method that we choose is by running the power steering with different kind of materials. So the first materials, as we know, is gas, dissolved gas. The next material is material B, synthetic liquid, and the next material is material C, which is liquid. Okay, move on to the next slide. So for this experiment, the component or materials that we use to conduct the experiment are brake disc, steering knuckle, suspension assembly, steering load pin, tie rod, boot, power steering feet and pipe, steering gear, motor power steering pump gallery, reservoir, which is the liquid and the synthetic liquid that we have mentioned earlier. And the next one is steering shaft, steering wheel, pressure pump is for the gas, dissolved gas. The next one is instrument and control panel. And the last but not least, materials or components that we use in the experiment is power steering tunnel frame. Next. Next slide. Okay, so for procedure part, these are the three general steps for the experiment. The first one is plug in the power plug to the single phase of 240 volt with 50 hertz power line. The second one is ensuring the steering system, whether it is liquid, gas or synthetic liquid that we want to investigate in the experiment. And the third one is ensure that the all steering system have been installed properly. It means the steering system is in a good condition. Next slide. Okay, this is the steps or the procedure which is more specific to the manipulated variables, whether it is gas, liquid or synthetic liquid that you want to test in the normal steering system. So the first step is switch off the MCB and motor switch to inactivate the motor and the hydraulic or pneumatic power steering system. Next is turn the steering wheel to the right half rotation and to the left half rotation. They will have to feel the force, whether the force is heavy or light. The next step is the process to ensure testing result. Then after finishing this experiment, turn off the main power and also the MCB. Then unplug the power plug from the power line, and the last step is reinstall all the steering loads and all its pin. Okay, next slide. So for conclusion of our experiment or methodology, we could get the data from the investigation. Then we could identify the effect of the different kind of materials to the normal steering system. And then we also could classify the best components of the three materials with using the less force to the normal steering system. Okay, then next I will pass the presentation to Muhammad Shafiq to explain more detail about the result and discussion.
Alright. Okay, thank you, Miss Fazia. So now I will discuss about result and discussion. Before I will go to result. So the introduction for the discussion is the data analysis of the experiment form. So the data will show about the effect of steering uses with pneumatic system of gas and hydraulic system of liquid is applied to the steering normal. It will transform into power steering that could make the future driver drive easily and long life without any damage or leak. So that is our introduction for the discussion. So now, as we can see that this is the observation for the experiment, that we have three stage, which is minimum load, medium load, and maximum load. As we can see, where we got three condition using material, which is the material A is gas, the material B is synthetic liquid, and the material C is liquid. So the first one we will put the stage one is which is a minimal load. So when the steering wheel turn the right half rotation and the left half rotation, any force we get, so this is the result. The force for material A is light, still no leaking, sorry for the typo, still no leaking. Material B same too, the force is like still light and they have no leaking, and material C still light and still no leaking. But when we put the medium load, so as we can see, the material B already force in intermediate and they have no leaking. But material C are already heavy when we force into right half rotation and left rotation. So but still they have no leaking for material. When we put the stage maximum, which is maximum load, material A show the result that the force is still light and they have no leaking for the compression. But the material B, they have heavy force and got leaking to the compression. Still the same like material C, they have force heavy and got leaking compression. So now we want to test which leaking from the rotation, which is whether right or left. So now we put without load, minimum load, medium load, and maximum load for the stage. So the first one we put the without load first. So when we rotate half right and left, so material A, B, and C still the same result, which is still force light, no leaking. When we put stage 2, which is minimum load, so same result. So they have no heavy force and still no leaky. But when we put the medium load, so the material is still the same, which is force light and no leaking. But the material B, our observation is when we force right half rotation, so the force become intermediate, same left half rotation, still intermediate, but they have no leaking in the component. But when to the material C, they're already heavy to force half rotation and but left rotation is intermediate. So that as we can see, they have two different when we put the medium load. So now we go to the maximum load. So the material A is still the same result, which is force is still light and no leaking, but the material B already leaking when we turn to right half rotation. But when we turn left, they have no leaking, but still heavy. For the material C, the force already heavy. When we turn to right and left half rotation, and the materials also leaking. So that is observation when we test our material in component steering system. So now last I will pass to the conclusion to Mr. Azizi. All right. Hello, Azizi. Hello.
Sorry, I have poor bad internet connection. Sorry. Okay, for the conclusion, from all the experiments and the results of the experiment that have been conducted, so we choose gas, which is the material A, the best material because it has no leaking, compatible, does no harm to others car components, and also lessen the maintenance cost. And also from the data obtained from the investigation, which is it is the best with no leaking and it is easy to turn for the driver and the effect to the normal steering, which is easier, and the best components with using less force. So that's all from us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I have questions for each and every one of you. Okay, so let's start with the first presenter. So for me, okay. So for me, I wanna ask.
Yeah, madam.
All right. So I wanna ask, what was the earliest materials that is used for the steering system, and what are the problems that occurred in the earlier
material?
The earliest system, I'm not quite sure what the system called, but the system is actually just a simple engineered system, which is just you're just connecting from the steering wheel to the tires without any support. Like
Ah.
right now we have a power steering system which is supported by the hydraulic. Either in the system they have liquid which make it more smoother and a little bit lighter. So the effect for the first
Yeah,
right, so
what is the
the
disadvantage?
first for the
Okay.
first invention of the steering wheel, the bad effect is just it is quite hard to handle it. It's a heavy and sometimes it is jammed because there are no support like no support and no what is we call that plinche.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's kind of support to support the steering to make it lighter or make it smoother for the driver to control.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Right, thank you, madam.
So for Azizi, you've mentioned a little bit on Azizi here ke? Alamak, dia dah terkeluar. Okay, tak apa. Let's skip Azizi for a while. Okay, let's go to Fatiha. So, I want to ask, how do you determine the best material based on the experiment or the result itself? How do you determine which one is the best material and why?
Okay, for the experiment, so how do we determine the best material is by experimenting at the steering compartment. So this experiment is one of our lab chassis during previous semester. So we have seen that different kind of material affect to the how the steering is turning, or how steering affect the turning of the tire. So from here, when we use the synthetic oil, liquid and gas, we could see that by using the gas, the turning the how we turn the steering, control the steering and the tire is more easier compared to the liquid, because liquid doesn't have that compact particles or compact, what you call that, compact movement in the pipe, in the, what you call that, in the saluran, in the pipe. So that's why we identify the gas is the best, because it's more compact, lighter, and it's easy to turn the steering, and it cause the tire, the right and the left, to turn better, to turn more, something
Alright.
like that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for Shafiq,
Yeah, madam.
okay, so I want to ask, so we're talking about power steering system or steering system in a normal car. So what about like high performance car, like maybe F1 car, or those types of cars that is used for high performance? Do they use the same steering system, or do they have a special one, special technology just to enhance their performance?
Oh, alright. So now, nowadays the power system in which is high quality and low quality car, right? Made them compare, right? So
Yeah.
the system always same use, which is hydraulic system. They contain liquid. They pneumatic liquid. They contain the power steering system. Commonly, what we want to test is our power system steering is got a commonly problem. We state is leaking at the component steering, right? So but they still cannot fix the compartment. But when I research, example I research is BMW i8, which is contain high compression liquid into power steering system, but the component still is okay. But what we want to the proof, the liquid, I give example like gas and water, alright. If we put in the one tube pipe, and then we put 10 years, 10 years for the result. So when what we can see, the water will give the pipe is rusty, right? And the rusty will kiss the pipe. But the gas, then this the gas not damage the tube. So this is the observation what we want to show. But in our country, they have no using the gas for the ni. But they have already researched the gas how to determine for the ni. But the problem is uh for top up the gas is the mostly complete problem for the ni, because we can see as we can see the gas every time every long they are used they will reduce the gas, kan, right, madam? That's all.
Okay, okay. Alright. My last question to Azizi. Dia macam dia terbelakang sikit lah soalan dia. My question to you is, name the latest technology for steering system, because I think you've mentioned this in the literature review just now. Name the latest tech that researchers are searching for, and what is the advantage of using that for steering system? What's the latest tech for the steering system, and what are the advantage of in using that?
Okay, medium. So as I have mentioned earlier, there are three types, right? And the latest mechanism, the latest materials that have been used by car experts is synthetic fluid, because for now it is the best materials to use, because it do not corrode the car components, and technically it is not expensive. And what do we call, for regular liquid, it just the mixture of petroleum and some special liquid. But for synthetic liquid, it just added a few components, which is carbon monoxide and oxygen. And for now, car experts have found that synthetic fluid is the best, because it is not that expensive, and can do more for, it is better compared to regular liquid. But and for now it is the best. But maybe for future research, we conclude that gas is the best, because gas do not corrode the car components, and then the gas is we can easily get the gas. Yeah.
All right. Okay, understand. Okay. Thank you for the explanation. All right, it was well presented. I understand the intention and the whole research, what it's all about, and you have a very clear understanding of the result as well. Okay, I guess that's all. Thank you so much. And can you please download the video and help me out by uploading it back to our file punya. So nanti I'll create